What to look for in wine. The appearance of wine. The appearance is everything you can visually perceive in a wine. It comes in many different shades and depths. Some dazzle you with their brilliance. Others can seem dull. This is a very important part of wine, and a great amount of information can be determined just by looking at it. Remember, to get the most out of these exercises, it's best to have a glass of wine handy. Best to have a well-lit area and a white surface underneath the glass. A white tablecloth, napkin, or the back inside of the cover of this manual are good options. We begin by looking for a wine's clarity. This is the first and easiest observation to be made, and it can be an indication of both good and bad signs in the wine. Tilt the glass away from you and look directly into it. Questionable signs are going to be hazy, caused by fine sediment you can see. Dull, the light doesn't pass through because of very fine sediment you can't actually see. This is a caution because it may have a problem, whether it be age or the winemaking process. It may even be going through another fermentation in the bottle, or it could just be simple improper handling in which simple decanting may have solved the problem. Now these are the good signs. Clear, no signs of sediment. Bright or brilliant. Light passes through with the brilliance of a gemstone. A brilliant wine is truly beautiful to look at. Our conclusion, if the wine looks like this, is good potential so far. A wine that is clear and brilliant is either youthful, well cared for, or both. The color of the wine. Now we need to define this because there are really two aspects of color, depth and shade. Let's talk about depth first. The actual deepness of color. In white wines, the depth of color can tell us something about its age and sometimes about the vinification, how the wine was made. In red wines, the depth of color is usually determined more how long the juice is in contact with the skins of the grape. The longer, the deeper the color. Also, as a red wine ages, it will lose its concentration and depth of color. Just for fun, this is a red wine that's so old it's lost all its color. It started off as a red Beaujolais in 1978. Now, in 2014, it has absolutely no color left to it whatsoever. In fact, if you look closely at the bottom of the bottle, you'll see it's all collected as sediment. To see the depth of color, set the glass on a white surface and look directly down into the glass. This is why it's important to make sure the glasses are always filled to the same level, otherwise you can be deceived. Now the basic scale goes from almost no color to so concentrated you can't even see through them. We tend to use the terms very light, light, medium, medium deep, deep, and opaque. An opaque wine is, of course, one that you can't see through at all. A lot of ports will have that kind of characteristic. We use this scale to compare all wines against each other, but only compare white wine with white and red with red. The depth of red wine is much more obvious. White wines take a little more time to learn because they are far more subtle. Generally, the deepest white wines would be dessert or fortified wines. I suggest when you begin keeping notes on your wines to start with the basic scale. But as time goes on and you become more aware of what to expect in a wine, you'll want to switch to an advanced scale. And this is where you're comparing the same grapes or the same grape growing regions. For the advanced scale, we'd say something like very light for that style of wine, usually a flaw. Light for that style of wine, possibly a flaw. Medium light, good color, but not as much as one would hope for. Medium, good color for that particular style of grape or wine. Medium deep, for red wines, very good color. Caution, white wines might be old and oxidized. Deep, for red wines, excellent, rich, concentrated color. Again, caution on white wines because they may be old and oxidized. Opaque, for red wines, that's what we call a wow color. Late harvest, port, heavy Hermitage, who knows? For white wines, again, big caution because it's probably old and oxidized. Here we see a sample of 5 California Chardonnays. One with no wood, with French wood, over the hill, and an example of an overly sweet dessert wine. It's so deep you can't even see through it. Shade. Shade is the second part of color. It's a very personal part of wine because just as every paint company has its own version of peach, you will have your own version of what cherry or straw is. To see the shade, tip the glass away from you and look down into it. You'll notice the center is not the same as the edge, which is almost always lighter and perhaps browner. That would be from oxidation, like an apple turning brown. This happens to all wines eventually. The shade gives you an idea as to the age of the wine. In white wines, we tend to use terms like clear, greenish, straw, pale yellow, yellow, golden yellow, amber, or brown. And that would be going on a scale from younger colors to older colors. In red wines, again starting from younger colors, purples and reds, cherries, blood red, ruby, garnet, brick, orange red, and brown. These, of course, are not the only shades. You will soon find yourself mixing them together, adding the depth, and describing them with something like this: bright medium yellow with a light greenish yellow edge, or deep ruby red with a slight orangish red edge. Make your words paint a picture. That way, when you look at your notes, you will be able to visualize what the wine looked like. This allows you to compare it with the other wines in the future. Body. Another observation you'll want to make is the body or thickness of the wine. When you swirl a glass of wine, you will notice a ring forms, and then tears or legs will begin to trickle down the glass. The more alcohol or sugar, or both, a wine contains, the more body it will have. The thicker and slower the legs, the more body. A light wine will trickle down quickly, a heavy wine much slower, and will seem to stick or cling to the glass. We will go more into the body in the taste section.